Hello, everyone, and welcome to another video with me and my sister Rosa. We are here to talk about her book, Betrayal by a Father. And before starting, I want to let you guys know that I want you to subscribe, like, and comment on this video, share my page, click the bell notification, and follow me on all my social media platforms. Here on YouTube, I'm Beauty by Jorge, and on Instagram, Beauty by Jorge. And on Facebook, I'm Jorge's Mundo World. So, any words to start us off?
Well, I want to say thank you so much for having me here on your platform.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for allowing me to talk about the book that I published in 2019. It's called Betrayal by a Father and the Power of Forgiveness. It's also in Spanish. And so...
¿Cómo se llama en español?
La traición de un padre y el poder del perdón.
Okay.
Both can be purchased on Amazon. So,
this book was inspired by what? What happened? What made you want to talk about it? Give us a little, preview of what the book is about.
Okay. So, actually, when was it? I think it was in 2014, 15, around there. A friend of mine had asked me if I could do an article for his magazine, and it was going to be entitled 7 Steps to a Healed Heart. And so although that didn't pan out, while I was overseas, I was in Mexico City at the time, the Lord just put it in me, hey, instead of writing an article, why don't you write an entire book about your story, your journey to forgiveness, to wholeness, to forgiveness, and your relationship with your Father. Because the story isn't just about you. It's about people that you can impact and help along the way. And so while I was in Mexico, I started to write it. When I returned in 2018, I finished writing it. And although it's my first book, it's not as thick, right? But it's very concise. It's to the point. And in 2019, it was published. Also, I didn't want to just have it for the English-speaking audiences. I wanted for the Latino community as well, because this is a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about on a public platform or what have you. But before I did any of that, I did ask our Father, do you give me permission to do this? He said yes, but he probably didn't expect me to do a world tour on it. But
can you give us a synopsis of what it's about?
Yes, it is. Well, the title itself is pretty strong. Betrayal by a Father and the Power of Forgiveness. And so I talk about that. I talk about our childhood. I talk about how we got to that point with that betrayal, what happened, and understanding our Father better, right? Understanding that where did this come from, his background, and honestly, the power of forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, whoever person betrayed you, but it's up to you if you're going to forgive them or not, because the freedom comes in forgiveness.
So I don't know how deep you want to talk about the synopsis or the story of what you're writing about here, but betrayal, for my viewers, they're going to want to know, what do you mean by betrayal? How did he betray you? How did you feel betrayal?
He didn't just betray me. He betrayed the family, right? And so for me, I'm speaking from my own perspective. You love somebody, you trust somebody, you look at them as, because the first man that I will love is my father, right? And my brother, my father, my brother. And so what do you do when someone you've loved so much betrays you, right? It's hurtful. It's painful. It's, you feel like you want to start hating this person.
To clarify, my father had a romance outside of his marriage. And that is what we're talking about here. And she felt betrayal. She felt a sense of betrayal towards my father. Like, you felt it.
Right.
Because of that.
And I talk about how we overcame it. It took years. It was not an overnight process. I also did not respect men.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate men, but I didn't respect them. How can
Mm.
I respect men if I can't respect my own father?
Mm-hmm.
And so, even in that, I had to go through that process. But honestly, it goes into details with respect to what happened, how we overcame it as a family. I also dedicate a chapter to our lovely mother
Mm-hmm.
and what she went through, how she handled it. And I don't know, but a lot of viewers, you may either can relate to this or not, or you don't know what to do. But what I will say is that you're not the first or the last. Your
Mm-hmm.
family's not the first or the last to go through this. I just feel like it's not talked about enough
Mm-hmm.
on certain platforms.
Why did you feel the need to talk about this subject? This being your first book,
Right.
what compelled you? Like, what?
I
How did that thinking come to mind to say, okay, I need to write this down and write a book about
I
it?
want to help others. That's
Okay.
the core reason. I wanted to help other people to be able to forgive, whether it's their father, their mother, their brother, their friend, colleague, whoever. It's the power of forgiveness.
So I'm not an author. I've never written a book, but I hear when they talk about something being a therapeutic thing. Did you feel that this was therapeutic for you?
It was therapeutic after it happened, after the forgiveness took place. Now, if you ever want to write a book about anything,
Mm-hmm.
be careful on the topic. Be careful that you are healed and not still wounded while you're writing it.
Mm.
So, all these things, these events, I don't know, I forgot when it started and I forgot. I mean, I forgot. But basically, when the Lord allowed me to write this, it was years after everything, fully healed, forgiven. My father, we have an amazing relationship now.
Mm-hmm.
He has been my travel buddy. I love my father to death. And he is just, he's
I
everything.
think, I want to ask you a question, and I want to first tell you how your book impacted me.
He wrote the epilogue, by the way.
I wrote the epilogue, and I was a little bit, I had to put my 2 words in there and put 2 cents and put my point of view.
By the way, before you say it, I definitely, as I wrapped up the book, I definitely felt from the Lord. I wanted George to contribute to this book somehow, some way.
Mm-hmm.
While my pastor wrote the foreword, I thought it was very appropriate for George to write the epilogue.
Mm-hmm. So it impacted me because I had never really took into consideration how it affected you, how what he did affected you. More than anything, I saw and cared for the feelings for my mother because I felt like it really, really did a number on her. And I never really, I knew you were hurt, but I didn't know to what extreme until I read your book. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, she felt all this, because we take things differently. You being a woman, me being a man. And it just was a different experience for me. And I got to see your point of view. How has your book affected your readers?
Oh, wow. I will say this, when I published it and people were actually, those readers who bought the book, who read it, they were sending me private messages telling me, thank you for sharing your story, blah, blah, blah. And I too went through this, and this is very helpful. But I want to share one particular story on the impact of one particular reader that impacted me. And I said, if this is one person that impacted, then it was worth everything.
The work.
It was worth it, because when I wrote this book, it was to help others. That was the goal. It wasn't anything else, it was to help others.
Yeah.
So this particular person had absolutely no relationship with their father. None. Professional lady, well-spoken, everything. Has it going on, but no relationship with the father, to the point where they despise their father.
Wow.
So with that said, she read my book. We talked about it. We spent time on the phone. We were in prayer. She read it again. And she says to me, had it not been and I don't want to get emotional.
Let it all out. It's okay.
Had it not been for your book, for your testimony, for seeing the fruit, because she also knows my father, I wouldn't come to this point with my own father, which was forgiveness. This is somebody who actually did not have a relationship probably 5 years ago with the dad. Now, today, they talk almost every day. Now, today, as of 2 years ago, she bought her dad a condo in
What?
Washington.
Wow.
This is somebody who had no relationship with the father. Bought her dad a condo, has a relationship, established that contact, and they go out and they have fun.
Wow.
And I still get emotional
Mm-hmm.
when I hear that testimony
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know who else was impacted and didn't share or whatever. But that particular story, reader, definitely impacted me. And so I wrote this book to help others.
And you know what's so different? We don't get to hear the daughter's points of view by a father's betrayal. Hardly ever. We always hear about the spouse, the wife, but never their daughter who can really be impacted. Did you feel any resentment toward our father?
When I found out everything, of course, I told you, like, it's not just resentment. I almost close to hating him. That was then. And well, I don't want to say too much because you guys have to
gotta read it.
You gotta read it yourself.
You gotta read it.
But my dad humbled himself.
Okay.
And I knew it was sincere. And his acts finished. And I say that because we know it. We know it.
You know, in the Latino community, in that culture,
not just Latinos. I mean,
well, I see it a lot in Latino culture, where here's what I'm getting at: men cheat and they get away with it, or they're forgiven easily or more quickly than American families. Like the husband is able to get away with it a little more often. And
because it seems it's like a pattern.
It's a pattern. It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. It's a toxic cycle. Yeah.
So a lot of the times the girls are not able to express themselves, or they're not able to heal from that betrayal that they might be feeling with their father, and probably have never talked about it with their father or family or mother, and they just hold it inside.
And I'm sorry, and also they choose partners that are like their fathers, right? And so that's what they saw. And it's like, you have to ask yourself, is that what I want? I don't think so.
You know, after you dealt with this situation with my father, there was some resolution.
Right.
You got over your resentment. Do you feel at this point, after having gone through all that, that you're able to trust men?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you guys this. And I know it's probably seen as a stigma in the Latino community or any community. Don't go to a therapist. Don't go to counseling. I went to counseling for a whole year regarding trust with men. And that helped me a lot.
It did help you.
It helped me tremendously. And
so you did have an issue with trusting them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I was not so forgiving with men back in my time. I was not so forgiving. I didn't respect men. Like I said, I did not respect men. I went to therapy for a whole year on trust issues with men. I prayed, I fasted, and I surrounded myself, this is just me, with women who are happily married with healthy relationships. And so also reestablishing my relationship with my own father. And so ultimately, my trust is with God. And I have opened years now my heart to meeting the person that God has for me.
The right person.
Right.
So it's it is almost a certainty sometimes that some men will cheat in their marriage. They would just will. And it's a difficult thing to overcome. Do you think that, when a man is marrying you, they have to take their vows and say their oaths and say their things in front of the,
It's a covenant.
it's a covenant between a woman and a man
You're right.
in the eyes of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying all these words, but do you really believe that a man can really remain faithful?
Yes, I really believe that.
You believe that?
I believe that. Now, you and I
I don't
agree to
believe
disagree, but not all people are the same.
that.
That is not absolute truth, Women, I mean, honestly, statistically, now you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I got to get the data.
But normally divorces are initiated by women.
Oh, really?
Not men, women.
Okay.
And so you guys have to read the book. But that is part of what our mother did. She was about to call it quits completely and utterly. Right?
Because
that was the end of that era.
the cheating had gone on for so long.
And it was a lot.
It was a lot.
Again.
On the marriage.
On a marriage. And and the thing is that our parents would hide things from us. Like there were things that I had no idea until later because they never fought in front of us. Right?
So
this is years. This is over two decades ago.
Yeah.
Two decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to be the devil's advocate and I want to share a different point of view that really is just my point of view. It's not like concrete. It's not written in law. It's just what I think. So you're a woman.
Right.
You are a woman and you think differently. I'm a man and I think differently and I know how men think.
We're wired different. Yeah.
Yes. And to be honest, I just see things differently from a male point of view. An effeminate feminine male maybe, but I'm still male. I'm still a man and I just think different. I don't see men as being completely faithful all the time unless they're saved, unless they have the fear of the Lord and that they're honest about their relationship with God and that they're, how do you say?
Submitted, surrender
and
to the
fear
Lord.
The Lord enough to not cheat.
Right.
Because this is how I see it.
And
unless they have that fear.
And when you say cheat, do you mean physical or emotional? Because there are different types of betrayals.
Physical and emotional.
Exactly.
Both.
Yes.
See, here's how I think it. And you may or may not disagree. Men don't see sex like women see sex. Men see sex as something they have to do when they can do it, however times they can do it, with as many people as they can do it. So staying with one woman and being married to one woman for a lot of men, that's a lot to wrap your head around when they've always had many, many relationships, maybe, or they're not wired that way to stay and remain with one person. I sometimes like to, when I'm speaking with my clients in my salon chair, yo a veces les digo, I tell the women, honestly speaking, and this might sound stupid, I say it like this. Can you eat a hamburger every single day? Can you eat a slice of pizza every single day? Can you have the same meal every single day? And a lot of men, and it sounds horrible, but that's how it is. A lot of men want variety. They want to experiment. And it's not a big thing to them to have an affair on the side if they don't get caught. Now, that's just the way it is. That's just the way I see it. And I guess because I'm a man, I don't feel that I'm as offended, but I'm sure that if I were married to the person, it would be devastating. It would be hurtful.
Absolutely.
But I kind of like tell my friends and family and clients who visit me, like, girl, you can't really get stuck on one man and think they're going to be perfect. If it happens and you're able to forgive.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, and if you're able to forgive and you're able to let go of that resentment and you're able to let God heal your marriage, that's great. But if you are, in my opinion, going through this and he doesn't care, do you think a divorcing should be an option or what?
I mean, it takes two.
It takes two.
It takes two. So one thing I will say is that divorce never came out of my father's mouth.
Mm.
Leaving the family was never an option.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think about that too. Because if the man or the woman is not willing to fight for the marriage, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And counseling, again, our parents are old school. They're not going to go to counseling. But my dad had to come to that conclusion on his own. Am I going to lose my entire family, everything that I've built with my wife for this? Because my mom had her mind
made up. So where can they buy this book? How can they order it? You said it's in, Spanish and in English.
And Amazon.
On Amazon.
You guys can either look it up by the title, Betrayal by a Father and the Power of Forgiveness, or you can look up Rosibel Hernandez. That is my full name. I am probably the only Rosibel Hernandez on Amazon. And the book is blue and white. It's in English and Spanish. And if you really like it, please write a review.
If you buy it, read it, please let us know what you thought of it. We love feedback. Leave us your comments. And thank you again, Rosa, for being here and sharing your experience.
Yeah.
We will be back another time with another video. Thank you all for being here. Take care.
Thank you.